Jason had been traveling through space for months, his mission unclear, his path uncertain. A message had come through from an unknown source, a distress signal from a distant planet, an unfamiliar world that few had dared to explore. The message was brief, only a few words, but enough to pull him in. "Help us. We are dying. Please come." That was all it said. He had never been one to ignore such a request, especially when it came from a planet so far from human reach. So, Jason set course for the planet. As he approached the dense green atmosphere, his curiosity grew. He didn't know what to expect, but he was sure of one thing. This wasn't going to be like any mission he had experienced before. As his ship descended through the clouds, Jason couldn't help but admire the beauty of the world below. The planet was a mix of vibrant, unspoiled forests, sparkling lakes, and towering mountains. Despite the lush appearance, there was a quiet stillness in the air. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath. The ship touched down gently, in a clearing near a thick forest. Jason gathered his supplies, checked his equipment, and stepped out of the ship. The cool air smelled of earth, with a hint of something floral, and the ground beneath him felt soft and damp. He moved cautiously, unsure of what he would find, but driven by the need to answer the call for help. As he walked deeper into the forest, he noticed something strange. There were no sounds of wildlife, no birds singing, no insects buzzing. Only the sound of his own footsteps echoed in the stillness. After a few hours of walking, Jason came across something unexpected. A figure lying motionless on the ground. His heart raced as he approached, unsure whether it was a trap or simply someone in need of help. The woman lying there was unlike anyone Jason had ever seen before. Her skin was a soft shade of pale blue, almost glowing in the dim light of the forest. Her long silver hair shimmered like strands of moonlight, tangled around her delicate face. She was tall, even by human standards, and her features were sharp and elegant. Yet there was a sorrow in her expression, even in her unconscious state. Jason crouched down beside her, checking her for any signs of life. Her chest rose and fell, in shallow breaths, and he let out a sigh of relief. She was alive, but just barely. He carefully lifted her into his arms, the alien woman's body light but fragile. Her skin was warm against his own, and despite the foreignness of her form, there was something deeply human about her. It was as if they shared an unspoken connection, something he couldn't explain. He moved quickly, navigating through the trees back toward his ship where he could treat her injuries. He had to get her inside, where it was safe. There was no telling what dangers the planet held, but he knew he couldn't leave her out here alone. When Jason reached the ship, he laid her gently on the medical bed, scanning her for injuries. There were cuts and bruises across her arms and legs, as well as signs of dehydration and malnutrition. She was clearly in need of help, but Jason had no idea who or what she was. Her eyes fluttered open as he worked, and she slowly looked up at him. Her eyes were a deep silver, full of sadness, but also something else, something that pulled him in, a feeling he couldn't quite name. You saved me," she whispered in a voice that sounded like music, soft, but filled with pain. Jason paused, his hands stilling over the medical equipment. "I couldn't leave you there," he said simply. "You were unconscious. You needed help." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as though she didn't believe him. "I am not like human women," she murmured, her voice almost too quiet for him to hear. "You shouldn't have helped me." Jason didn't understand what she meant by that, but he felt a strange urge to reassure her. "You're not like anyone I've ever met," he said. "But that doesn't mean you don't deserve help. Everyone deserves help." She shook her head, her silver hair falling in loose waves around her face. "You don't know what I am," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of bitterness. I am nothing like you. I am not beautiful like human women. Jason was taken aback. He had only just met her, but he couldn't understand why she would think such a thing. To him, she was the most beautiful person he had ever seen. Her alien features were unique, sure, but there was a raw strength in her that drew him in. You're beautiful, Jason said without thinking. I don't know what you mean, but to me, you're beautiful. The alien woman's eyes widened slightly, her expression unreadable. For a moment, she seemed uncertain, almost like she didn't know how to respond. But then she closed her eyes and a small sigh escaped her lips. Thank you, she whispered, almost as though the words were foreign to her. Jason felt a strange sense of comfort at her gratitude, but also a deep sadness. This woman, whoever she was, whatever she had been through, had clearly endured so much. The world around her had broken her in ways that Jason couldn't even begin to understand. But, as he looked at her, he felt something stirring inside of him. There was more to this mission than just answering a distress call. He had a feeling that helping this woman, understanding her, would change everything for him. He didn't know how, but he knew it was true. He sat down beside her, offering a small smile. What's your name? The woman hesitated for a moment, and then in a soft voice, she spoke. Lyra, she said. My name is Lyra. Jason nodded, committing the name to memory. Well, Lyra, I'm Jason, and I promise I'll help you, whatever you need. Lyra looked at him again, her expression softening for just a moment before she turned, her gaze away, her silver eyes distant. Jason sat quietly by her side, unsure of what came next. But he knew one thing. The journey they were about to take together was going to change both of their lives forever. As the days passed, Jason couldn't help but watch Lyra closely. She wasn't just any injured traveler. There was something mysterious about her. She had opened up to him only a little, but it was enough to make him wonder what had caused her so much pain. Despite her alien appearance, her eyes revealed the sorrow she carried within, the scars that no one could see on the surface. Jason had expected her to be difficult to communicate with, but in truth, she was surprisingly easy to talk to. Once he had taken care of her injuries, Lyra grew stronger. Each day, she showed more of her true self. Her voice, soft and melodic, told stories of her past, but she always seemed to pull away when it came to speaking about herself directly. Lyra sat near the large window of the ship, gazing out at the endless stretch of stars that filled the blackness of space. Jason could see her reflection in the glass, her delicate features, her long silver hair, and the way she held herself like someone who had been through much but was still standing. Do you miss your home? Jason asked one afternoon as he passed by her. She didn't turn to face him at first, but after a long pause, she spoke quietly. My home is gone. Or perhaps it never truly existed. Her voice was laced with a sadness that Jason couldn't quite place. I belong to a species that was once great, but now we are lost, scattered across the stars. Jason frowned. What happened? What caused it? She finally turned to face him, her silver eyes meeting his with a depth that made him feel as if she could see right into him. We were too different, Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not just from humans, but from each other. My people, we fought for power, for control. In the end, we lost everything. Jason's heart sank as he listened to her. He could tell that this wasn't just about physical loss. It was something deeper, something that left emotional wounds. I don't understand, Jason said, his voice sincere. How can differences lead to all of that? Differences are what make each of us unique. Why fight them? Lyra's eyes softened, but she didn't answer right away. She seemed to be thinking, weighing her words carefully. "Because when you are different, you are feared," she said at last. "And when fear grows, it turns to hate. My people didn't just fear each other, they feared those who were different from us. And that fear, it destroyed us." Jason took a step closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "But you're not like them, right? You didn't cause all of this. You were a part of something beautiful. A culture." Lyra looked down at her hands, her fingers tracing the edges of her sleeve absent-mindedly. "I wish I could believe that," she murmured. "But all that's left now is emptiness." Jason didn't know how to respond. He could see that Lyra was lost, not just in the world around her, but within herself. She had been broken long before she ever encountered him. The silence between them was thick, and Jason couldn't shake the feeling that he had to help her, that he had to show her a way out of the darkness she was trapped in. "I know it's not the same," Jason said softly. "But I've lost things, too. I know what it feels like to have something you care about slip away." Lyra turned her gaze back to the stars, her expression distant again. "What did you lose?" she asked, her voice gentle. Jason hesitated. He wasn't sure if he was ready to talk about it, but something about the way she asked made him feel safe. "My family," he said after a moment. "I've been traveling in space for years, alone. I lost contact with them long ago. They didn't make it out of an accident." Lyra said nothing at first, just letting his words hang in the air. Jason didn't expect her to understand completely. How could she? But he appreciated that she didn't judge him. It was a strange comfort, knowing that they both shared a sense of loss, even if their experiences were different. Finally, Lyra spoke again. "I never knew what it felt like to have a family, to have someone who cared for me." She sounded almost as though she was talking to herself, lost in the thought. "But perhaps it's not too late to learn. You're the first person to show me kindness in a long time." Jason's heart ached as he listened to her. He wasn't sure if it was because he felt pity for her or because he could see the fragile hope that was slowly growing in her eyes. Either way, he knew he had to help her. "Lyra," Jason said quietly, "you're not alone anymore. I'm here. You don't have to do this alone." Lyra met his gaze again, her silver eyes full of uncertainty. "But I'm not like you," she said softly. "I'm not beautiful like human women. I'm different. I don't belong here." Jason blinked, surprised by her words. "Lyra," he said, stepping closer, "don't say that. You're beautiful. You are, in ways that I can't even put into words." Lyra shook her head, as if she didn't believe him. "I don't look like the women from your world," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't understand. I'm not what you want." Jason felt a rush of emotions surge through him. He knew it wasn't just about her appearance. There was something else, something deeper, that made her feel like she didn't belong. He understood that pain, but he also knew that none of it mattered to him. The only thing that mattered was that she knew she wasn't alone. "Lyra," he said softly, "you are everything I never thought I would find out here. Don't believe that you're not worthy of love. You are. I see you. For everything that you are." For the first time, Lyra didn't pull away. She stayed silent, looking at Jason as if she was trying to process his words. Jason could see that her heart was still locked away, but he knew that with time, she would begin to understand. And somehow, just by being there, Jason hoped that he could show her that she wasn't as alone as she thought. The days continued to pass slowly aboard the ship. Jason found himself becoming more and more intrigued by Lyra. There was something about her, something unspoken, that seemed to draw him in, It wasn't just her appearance, although he found her stunning in ways he couldn't describe. It was the way she carried herself, the quiet strength she seemed to hold deep within. At first, Lyra had kept her distance, emotionally and physically. But over time, she began to open up, just a little. Each small step she took made Jason feel like he was watching a flower bloom, each petal unfolding with care. She wasn't used to kindness, and it made her hesitant, unsure of how to react. But Jason noticed that every time they spoke, a small spark of trust seemed to form. One morning, as the sun rose over the distant horizon of the planet they had landed on, Jason found Lyra sitting by the window again, staring out at the stars. She was still as beautiful as ever, but this time, there was something different in her eyes. She wasn't looking at the stars with the same distant sadness. It was almost as though she was finally seeing them for what they were. Just another, part of a larger, more welcoming universe. Jason walked over to her, his footsteps soft on the floor. "Good morning," he said gently. Lyra turned her head slowly, offering him a small smile, something Jason had never seen before. It was a rare sight, and it made his heart skip a beat. "Good morning, Jason," she replied quietly. He sat down beside her, giving her space, but close enough to show that he was there. He didn't push her to talk, just let the silence hang between them. For once, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. After a few moments, Lyra spoke, her voice a soft whisper. "You've been kind to me, Jason. Too kind." She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "I've spent so much of my life in isolation, hiding from the world. I didn't think anyone would ever offer me kindness." Jason felt a pang of sympathy for her, but he also felt something else. A desire to protect her, to make her see that the world wasn't as dark as she believed. "You don't have to hide anymore, Lyra. You're not alone." Her gaze dropped to her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. "I don't know how to be normal. I don't know how to fit in. I don't look like the women from your world. I'm not what you might expect." Jason's heart went out to her. He could see the pain behind her words. It wasn't just her appearance that made her feel out of place. It was the feeling of never truly belonging, of never being accepted. "Lyra," Jason said, his voice steady and kind. "You don't have to look like anyone else to be important. You're perfect the way you are. And I think you're more than you realize." Lyra looked up at him, her silver eyes searching his face for any hint of insincerity. But all she saw was honesty. Jason wasn't lying to her. He truly believed what he was saying, and for the first time, Lyra felt a flicker of hope. "I don't feel perfect," she whispered. "I feel broken." Jason gently placed a hand on her shoulder, offering her comfort in a way words could not. "Everyone has their scars, Lyra. It's what makes us who we are. Your scars don't define you, but how you heal from them does." She didn't respond immediately, but the silence between them was different this time. It wasn't filled with uncertainty. It was filled with a quiet understanding. Lyra seemed to be processing his words, letting them sink in. "Thank you, Jason," she said softly, her voice carrying a warmth that hadn't been there before. Jason smiled. "No need to thank me. I just want you to know that you're not alone anymore. I'm here." Over the next few days, Lyra seemed to change. Slowly, like the shifting of the tide, she began to embrace the idea that she wasn't the person she had once believed herself to be. She started spending more time outside the ship, exploring the planet with Jason by her side. The lush, green forests they walked through felt less like an alien world and more like a place of new beginnings. Every now and then, Jason would catch Lyra looking around, her eyes wide with wonder as though she was seeing the world for the first time. As they trekked through the wilderness, Jason took notice of how Lyra moved. She walked with a quiet confidence now, no longer looking over her shoulder or avoiding eye contact. She seemed to be reclaiming her strength piece by piece. He could see it in her posture, in the way she carried herself. One afternoon, they stopped by a clearing. The sun was low in the sky, casting a warm, golden glow over the landscape. Lyra sat on a rock near a small stream, dipping her fingers into the cool water. "This is peaceful," she said, her voice full of wonder. Jason nodded, sitting beside her. "It is. I think you're beginning to see it too. There's more to the universe than pain and fear. There's beauty in places like this. And there's beauty in you, Lyra." Lyra glanced at him, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. She had heard compliments before, but something about Jason's words made her heart race in a way she didn't expect. She hadn't allowed herself to feel vulnerable in a long time, but here, with him, it felt different. "Do you really think so?" she asked, her voice quieter than before. Jason turned to her, meeting her gaze directly. "Yes, I do. You have strength inside of you, Lyra, and a beauty that goes beyond anything I've ever seen." Lyra was silent for a long moment, the water flowing gently around her fingers. She had spent so much time hiding from the world, hiding from herself. But Jason's words were like a light shining through the cracks in her heart. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe them. "I never thought anyone could see me like this," she said softly. "Not after everything I've been through." Jason reached over, gently taking her hand. "I see you, Lyra, for who you are, not what you think you are, or what you've been told you are. Just you." Lyra's breath caught in her throat, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a tear slip down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, but Jason saw it. He saw everything. And in that moment, Lyra realized that perhaps, just perhaps, she wasn't broken after all. She was. Simply healing. The days had become easier for Lyra. Slowly, almost without her realizing, the walls she had built around herself began to crumble. Jason had been the key, gently unlocking each layer of pain and fear she had kept hidden for so long. The quiet moments they shared, whether they were sitting in the quiet corners of the ship or walking together through the alien forests, helped her see that perhaps there was more to life than just survival. Lyra had never felt safe before. She had spent most of her life hiding, running from those who feared her, from the dangers of her own people's mistakes. But with Jason, she felt a strange kind of peace. He never asked her to explain herself completely. He didn't push her to be someone she wasn't. He simply let her be. One evening, after another long day of exploring the alien world, Jason and Lyra sat outside, watching the stars above. The sky was different here, vast, dark, and dotted, with stars that seemed to shine brighter than anything Lyra had ever seen. It was as if the universe itself was trying to remind her that beauty still existed, even after everything she had lost. Lyra leaned back on the grass, her long silver hair spread out behind her like a shimmering veil. She felt the cool air on her skin, the soft sounds of the planet surrounding them. For the first time in years, she felt free. Free from fear, free from the judgment she had carried for so long. The silence between them was comfortable, not awkward, as it often had been in the past. "You know," Lyra said softly, her eyes still fixed on the stars, "I never thought I'd be able to sit like this again. So calm. So at peace." Jason looked at her, his heart swelling with something he couldn't name. "I'm glad you feel that way. You deserve to feel peaceful. You deserve to be happy, Lyra." She turned her head to look at him, and for a moment their eyes met. There was something in that glance, a silent understanding. It was the kind of connection that words couldn't fully explain, a bond that grew stronger with every shared moment. Jason didn't just see her as the alien woman she had once been. He saw her as someone who had been through pain, but still had so much left to give. "I don't know how to explain it," Lyra continued, her voice low. "But being here with you, it feels like I'm not alone anymore. Like maybe I can find a way to move forward, a way to live again." Jason's heart ached at her words. He knew the weight she carried, the scars she had hidden away for so long. But he also saw the person she was becoming. Strong, beautiful, brave. He wasn't sure if she saw it yet, but he did. And that was enough for him. "You're not alone, Lyra," Jason said firmly, reaching out to gently touch her hand. "Not anymore, and I'll be here for you no matter what." Lyra blinked, her chest tightening with emotion. She had never known a kindness like this. Never known someone who truly cared about her without any hidden motives. Jason didn't want anything from her. He didn't expect her to be someone she wasn't. He simply wanted to help her heal, to show her that she was worth more than she had ever believed. The silence returned, but this time, it was different. There was no tension, no uncertainty. Just two people, sharing a quiet moment under the stars, each knowing that the other had been there when it mattered most. The next day, they set out on another adventure through the forest. This time, Jason asked if Lyra wanted to guide him to a hidden spot she had mentioned, a place she had once visited as a child. She agreed, and they journeyed deeper into the unknown parts of the planet. As they walked, Jason couldn't help but notice how Lyra moved with more confidence. She walked with a sense of purpose now, no longer the uncertain woman who had first stumbled onto his ship. She was stronger, and Jason couldn't be more proud. When they reached the clearing Lyra had spoken of, Jason was amazed. The area was unlike anything he had seen before, a hidden grove with massive ancient trees whose trunks were twisted and covered in vines. Flowers of every color imaginable bloomed in the soft light, and the air was thick with the scent of fresh earth. It was a place of magic, a place that seemed to hold secrets, as if the very ground was alive with history. Lyra stood at the edge of the clearing, her expression one of reverence. "This place," she said quietly, "was where I used to come, when I needed to think. Before everything changed. Before I was forced to leave my home." Jason stood beside her, respecting the quiet reverence in her voice. "It's beautiful," he said, taking in the scenery. Lyra nodded, her gaze distant. "It was my sanctuary, my only escape." Jason watched her closely. He could see the weight of those memories in her eyes. It was clear that this place held more than just beauty for her. It held pieces of her past, the parts of her that she hadn't been able to let go of. "I'm sorry for what you lost, Lyra," Jason said, his voice soft but sincere. "I can't. Imagine how hard it must have been." She gave a small, bitter smile. "I've lost more than most could ever understand, but being here with you, seeing this again, it feels like I'm remembering a part of myself I thought was gone." Jason felt a warmth spread through his chest. It was a small moment, a quiet one, but it meant more to him than anything. "You're not lost, Lyra. You're here. You're real. And that's all that matters." Lyra turned to him, her silver eyes meeting his. In that instant, Jason felt a connection that went beyond friendship. It was deeper, something more than either of them had expected. He knew that this journey wasn't just about helping Lyra find herself again. It was about discovering parts of himself that he hadn't even realized were there. "I never thought I could trust anyone again," Lyra said softly. "But somehow, I trust you, Jason. I don't know why, but I do." Jason reached out, his hand brushing against hers. You don't have to know why. You just have to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. And in that moment, standing together in the peaceful grove, with the stars shining above them and the world at their feet, Lyra finally allowed herself to believe it. For the first time in years, she felt at peace, and she knew that no matter what came next, she wouldn't have to face it alone. The next few days were different for both of them. The air around them felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Jason and Lyra spent more time together, exploring the planet's hidden secrets, enjoying the peaceful beauty of the world. But, despite the calm, Jason noticed that something was off with Lyra. She had become more distant again, retreating into herself in a way that felt all too familiar. Jason couldn't help but feel concerned. He had seen her begin to open up, to let down her guard, but now it seemed as if she was building the walls back up, brick by brick. She no longer looked at him with the same quiet trust she had before. Now, when she spoke to him, it was as if there was something unsaid, a part of her she was trying to protect. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the horizon, casting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Jason found Lyra sitting on the ship's deck, her back to him. She had always liked to sit outside at night, watching the stars and listening to the sounds of the planet. But tonight, there was something different in the way she held herself. Her shoulders were tense, her hands clenched into fists on her lap. Lyra, Jason called softly, taking a cautious step toward her. She didn't turn around at first. The silence between them stretched on longer than it should have, thick with unspoken words. Jason waited, giving her space, but also feeling the growing need to understand what was going on inside her. I can't do this, Lyra said suddenly, her voice tight and filled with a sadness that Jason hadn't heard before. I can't. Keep pretending like everything is okay. Jason's heart skipped a beat. He walked over to her, crouching down so that they were at eye level. Lyra, what's wrong? You've been distant these past few days. Is it something I did? Lyra shook her head, but she still wouldn't look at him. It's not you. It's me. I've been holding on to so much pain, Jason. You have no idea what I've been through, what I've lost. Jason felt a wave of guilt rush over him. He knew she had been through a lot, but he hadn't realized just how deeply it had affected her. He had been so focused on trying to help her heal that he hadn't seen the cracks that were still there, the cracks that went all the way to her core. You don't have to hide it from me, Lyra, Jason said, his voice gentle but firm. I'm here for you. Whatever it is, you can tell me. Lyra finally turned to face him, her eyes filled with tears that she was desperately trying to hold back. You don't understand, she whispered. I'm not like you. I'm not like human women. I can never be what you want. Jason frowned, his brow furrowing in confusion. Lyra, what are you talking about? I don't want you to be like anyone else. I want you to be you. That's all I've ever wanted. But Lyra couldn't bring herself to believe him. She shook her head again, her tears finally falling freely. I'm broken, Jason. I've always been broken. I was never meant to be loved. I was never meant to be seen. Jason's heart ached as he listened to her. He could feel the weight of her words, the pain that still lingered in her heart. But he couldn't just stand there and let her believe this about herself. He had to show her that she was wrong. Lyra, he said, his voice soft but steady. You are not broken. You're strong, stronger than anyone I know. And I've seen you in ways no one else has. You are beautiful, not because of how you look, but because of everything you are. Lyra shook her head again, her voice trembling as she spoke. You don't see it. You don't see the things I've done, the things I've lost. I don't deserve your kindness. I don't deserve to be loved. Jason's hands shook as he reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands. He couldn't let her keep thinking this way. He needed her to understand that she was worthy, worthy of love, worthy of peace, and worthy of herself. "You don't have to be perfect," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "No one is perfect, Lyra. I don't love you because you're flawless. I love you because of the person you are, because of the strength and kindness I see in you every day. And I want to be with you, not because of what you were, but because of what you are now, and because of what you can still become." Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes searching his face, looking for any hint of insincerity. But there was none. Jason meant every word. "I'm scared," Lyra said quietly, her voice breaking as she spoke. "I'm scared that if I let myself believe you, I'll only end up hurting you. I'm scared that I'll let you down, that I'll make you regret ever caring about me." Jason's heart hurt at her words. He had never seen her so vulnerable, so unsure of herself. But he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't let her push him away. He wouldn't. "You're not going to hurt me, Lyra," Jason said firmly. "You're not going to make me regret anything. I'm here for you. All of me. You don't have to carry all of this by yourself anymore. I'll help you, every step of the way." Lyra's breath caught in her throat, her chest rising and falling with emotion. She had never known anyone who would say such things and truly mean them. It was as if Jason had unlocked a part of her that she had kept locked away for years. She didn't know if she could fully believe him yet, but for the first time in a long time, she felt the possibility of something more. "I don't know how to let go of all the pain," Lyra whispered. "I don't know how to stop believing that I'm not worthy." Jason wiped away a tear that had fallen down her cheek. "You don't have to let go of everything all at once. You just have to take it one step at a time. I'll be with you for each of those steps." Lyra looked at him, her heart racing in her chest. She wasn't sure if she was ready to fully trust him yet, but she knew that she didn't want to keep hiding. Not anymore, not with Jason by her side, and for the first time. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she could start to believe in herself again. The days after their conversation felt different. Lyra had begun to let down some of the walls she had built around her heart. It wasn't easy. Old habits and fears didn't disappear overnight, but she could feel herself changing. Jason's words had made a difference. She still had doubts, but they weren't as loud as before. Every day she took small steps toward accepting the kindness Jason offered, and every day she felt herself growing stronger. Jason noticed the change in her too. She smiled more, she laughed sometimes, and her eyes, those silver eyes that had once looked so distant, seemed to shine with a new light. He was proud of her, but he also knew that this was just the beginning. Lyra's healing would take time. He wasn't rushing her, but he would be there, standing beside her every step of the way. One evening, after they had finished a long walk through the dense forest, they sat together on the ship's deck, watching the stars twinkle in the sky, above. It had become a ritual of sorts. Sitting there in the quiet of the night, they shared their thoughts, their fears, their hopes for the future. Jason had learned so much about Lyra during these moments, and he found himself opening up. More, too. She had a way of listening that made him feel heard, something he hadn't realized he needed until now. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Lyra began, breaking the comfortable silence. Her voice was steady, but there was an edge of uncertainty still present. "About how I don't have to be perfect." Jason turned to face her, his heart already swelling with pride. "You're starting to believe it, aren't you?" Lyra smiled, a small, shy smile, but it was genuine. "I think I am," she said, her eyes meeting his. "I've spent so long thinking I needed to be perfect, to be what others expected of me. But I'm realizing that I don't need to be anyone other than who I am. And I don't have to hide from my past anymore. It's part of me. But it doesn't define me." Jason felt a warmth spread through him at her words. He had always known that Lyra was capable of so much more than she believed. Her strength was hidden beneath layers of fear, but now she was beginning to uncover it. He reached out and gently took her hand, his grip steady and reassuring. "You've always been more than enough, Lyra," Jason said softly. "You've never needed to be perfect. All you've needed is to be you. And that's who I see. That's who I've always seen." Lyra's heart skipped a beat at his words. She didn't know why, but hearing him say that made something inside her shift. It was as if she had been waiting for someone to tell her that she was enough. All her life, she had felt like an outsider, like there was something wrong with her. But now, sitting next to Jason, she could feel the weight of those old beliefs lifting. She wasn't broken. She wasn't a mistake. She was worthy of love and kindness, just as she was. "I've spent so much of my life believing I wasn't worthy of love," Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you've shown me that I am." Jason squeezed her hand, offering a comforting smile. "You've always been worthy, Lyra. You just needed to see it yourself." Lyra turned her head to look out at the stars, her mind racing with new thoughts. She had spent so many years hiding from herself, afraid of the parts of her that seemed broken or damaged. But now, with Jason by her side, she was starting to see that those parts didn't make her unworthy. They made her who she was. Every scar, every memory, every fear was a part of her story. And she was ready to face that story, no longer afraid of what it might reveal. I think I'm ready," Lyra said, her voice full of quiet determination. Ready to stop hiding, ready to move forward. Jason's heart swelled with pride. He had always known that Lyra had the strength to overcome her past, but hearing her say it aloud made everything feel real. He could see the change in her, the way she was finally beginning to embrace herself. It was a beautiful thing to witness. Then, "We'll do it together," Jason said firmly. "You don't have to face anything alone anymore." Lyra smiled, and for the first time in a long time, she felt the truth of those words. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. She had Jason by her side, and that made all the difference. The night stretched on, the stars above them twinkling like 1,000 tiny promises. Lyra leaned back, resting her head on Jason's shoulder. He didn't pull away. Instead, he wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. She felt safe there in his embrace, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. They sat together in the quiet, neither of them speaking, but both of them knowing that things were changing. Lyra had started her journey toward healing, and Jason would be there to walk with her every step of the way. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he didn't need to. With Lyra beside him, he knew that anything was possible. The next morning, they decided to explore the forest again. This time, it wasn't just about finding new places. It was about enjoying the world around them, feeling the earth beneath their feet and the freedom that came with it. As they walked side by side, Lyra's hand brushed against his. She didn't pull away this time. Instead, she let her fingers intertwine with his, a small but powerful gesture that spoke volumes. "I'm ready," she said again, her voice full of quiet confidence. "Ready for whatever comes next." Jason smiled, his heart filled with warmth. "Me too." And with that, they continued walking side by side into the future, together.